recipe since 1944, with ingredients de aquí y de allá. A truly Mexican-American beer. Tecate. Mexico's in us. Enjoy Tecate responsibly. Copyright 2021 Tecate beer. Imported by Cervezas Mexicanas. Midway's beer.
Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond, in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys in Canada and Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south. You're the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful April the 16th, 2021. Round of the Deportes. Bonjour, Big C. How's it going for you good old boys down south?
Charlton, looking at the rise and the wealth of the NBA players. You know, you think about Kevin Durant, who just became the most wealthiest player in the history of the NBA, became a billionaire. But once again, I want to thank our frontline healthcare workers, our nurses, doctors, first responders, for all of what they do, regardless of what's in your pocket.
For all of what they do, I want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. When you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you, as well as a fleet of Cadillac cars never stop arriving. Also, all around the world, just say Google or Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear Welcome to the Show. I will introduce Big C as a mystic. He will do his thing from 3,000 miles away. And I really do appreciate the way things are growing with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Spotify. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. But you better have a smart TV, or you'll be sitting there looking at a still picture. Man, I love pausing. I think Kevin Durant paused when he saw the zeros on the end of that check, but I'll never pause on our Veterans Crisis Hotline. They really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones. Going to help Big C. Why should everybody care?
Well, Charlton, we always need to think about the plight of our veterans in this country. Unfortunately, they're the lost entity in America. We lose over 24 a day to suicide, Charlton, a very horrific number. Everybody's preoccupied with COVID-19 and trying to get back to work and get their kids into school, Charlton. Our veterans paved the way for us to have that freedom and ability to do those things. So we must not, as a nation, turn our back on these great veterans, Charlton. Losing over 24 a day to suicide is something that we need to consider as a pandemic in this country and find a way. I don't know if there's a vaccine on the horizon, but counseling, communication is one of the ways to help immediately, Charlton, and we need to get more of that for our veterans to help stem the suicide.
Got to do the best we can to help stem the suicide, Big C. And I know sometimes people say, man, you guys talk about veterans every day, Veterans Crisis Hotline every day, but every day they need help every day, Big C. And sometimes people just tend to forget because we have a fast food society. Everybody wants their food done in 30 seconds. They want everything done in 30 seconds. But sometimes a 30-second phone call can help save the life of a veteran. Pick up the phone and call 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net. And you can definitely get some help for our veterans and their loved ones. Also very happy to be affiliated with Valley, home with weekly TV on Dish TV, Direct TV, AT&T Uverse, TV 53, home of the San Francisco Giants and the Say Hey Kid, as well as the home run King Barry Bonds. When you reach out to them, just tell them Big C sent you. Our goal is simple: recruit 10,000 real estate agents and brokers all over this great country, helping them put people back to work just like McDonald's does it. Car dealerships do it. Sports teams are doing it. Watch TV and real estate work for you. 800-772-8624. If you're looking for opportunities in real estate, go to bigcsports.pacwm.com. Most of our loans are underwritten by Rocket Mortgage, the #1 lender in the country on the wholesale side of lending. Also, I want to say thank you to Xfinity Comcast TV and Comcast Spotlight for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just like God said, let there be light. Open your cell phones and say play Big C Sports Podcast. You will see all of our apps pop up from all over the world. And I really do appreciate the way things have grown with Big C Sports. You know, today Big C is still Major League Baseball on this happy Friday, still paying homage to Hank. And, you know, Hank Aaron's been with the Atlanta Braves, but they've been paying a lot of homage for African-American baseball players, Big C, and Jackie Robinson. Also, every day could be Jackie Robinson Day when you think about the opportunities that the great Jackie Robinson opened up for so many people. So congratulations to baseball for doing that. But as you just mentioned also, I want to just pay attention to another African-American athlete by the name of Kevin Durant. You mentioned his lucrative business venture. Just gave him a 100 million reasons, actually 100 billion reasons to smile, Big C. You know, Frankie, he was it Frankie Beverly and Mays? They were talking about joy, pain, sunshine, and rain. Well, Big C, when we talked about Jackie Robinson, how he opened a bank in Brooklyn, I believe, in Harlem actually, and after he retired from baseball, a lot more athletes are putting their money into ventures outside of sports. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, with the wealth that these athletes make nowadays, Charlton, it's very easy for them to get into venture capitalism. And Kevin Durant got into cryptocurrency, and he got into the opening of cryptocurrency that was put on Wall Street, Charlton. And when you look at the rise that this currency made in its opening, you know, salvo from on the stock market, he became a billionaire overnight, Charlton. He invested his money properly, and that's what athletes have done for a long time, is that they don't talk about the investments that they make, but they go out and they seek out the intelligent people to be around, Charlton, not just hanging out with their boys. But, you know, Kevin Durant started doing this when he was in the Bay Area, hanging out in Silicon Valley.
There's a lot of reasons people say, why go to San Francisco? It's such an expensive city. But it's also, I believe, more billionaires in Silicon Valley than anywhere else in the United States. But he's one of the newest business billionaires based on his venture capitalist, Big C. And also Silicon Valley, as you mentioned, opened a lot of doors for people in the Bay Area to get involved with being more than just the shut up and dribble. So when people say to these African-American athletes that they should shut up and dribble, you're saying Durant didn't listen, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, the people that's telling them to shut up and dribble, Charlton, are kind of envious of the position of these athletes.
Sometimes they're just envious. And I just hope, my goodness, there are so many things in the world. We were just talking about H.R. 40 with reparations just being considered, you know, passed by the House just this week, Big C, Sheila Jackson Lee. And when we talk about reparations, Bitcoin is something that every person should look into, especially people of color. And I know there's a football player also, I can't remember his name, but he also got the Bitcoin wave, and it made him the wealthiest player in football too. He's not even a household name, but technology like Bitcoin, it doesn't discriminate by your race or your gender or how old you are, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, it wasn't Bitcoin that Durant got into. He got into cryptocurrency. There's so many different levels of cryptocurrency. But when you get in on the ground floor, Charlton, which Kevin Durant did, and the stock IPO took off when he invested in it, and now, you know, he's sitting back licking his chops.
Yeah, he's licking his chops. Hopefully he won't stop licking that basketball before he shoots for threes off there in Leavenworth. I'm sure he'll end up doing a lot more things with his new found wealth. It's all fair in Leavenworth. Wish him nothing but the best. Big C, I want to talk about the decade of women. I know it's Jackie Robinson, baseball's Jackie Robinson Day, as they celebrate the great Jackie Robinson and what he did. He did so many things on and off of the baseball field, Big C. But I want to make sure that today we pay homage to women. You know, Mother's Day is coming up next month, and I want to take the day to just honor some women, Big C, during Women's History Month. We look at what could be the decade of the woman. I mean, no one would be on the planet if it were not for a woman saying yes to some man, Big C, your thought?
Well, Charlton, women have always been very integral in every step and aspect of world life. You think about everything starts with them, and then love and cherishing, everything ends with them.
Yeah, if we could just get more women to say yes, it's all fair and level word, Big C. But for Decade of the Woman, here are some women who will make things happen in the universe. It's all fair and love and war. I'm telling you, what's become clear is that in the last year, it was a launching point for a significant movement, Big C, 2021, and perhaps the next 10 years and beyond. Women will likely be continuing what they began. You know, all life came from a woman, Big C. Think about this. The list has been narrowed, of course. There are other worthy candidates, like South Carolina coach Dwyane Wade, who turned the Game Hawks into a national power, Big C, on the basketball court, reaching 9 NCAA tournaments and winning a national title, Big C. She's the second African-American woman coach to win a title after Purdue's Carolyn Peck, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, it's been a great honor to know somebody like Cynthia Marshall. When you think about her accolades as a player, then transitioning into a coaching position, as well as a mentor of the young African-American women, Charlton, in America, this is something that we need more of.
Yeah, we do need a lot more of it, Big C. When you think about the executive suite, to the playing field, to the world of NFL officiating, these are the women who will lead sports over the next 10 years. And I'm sure, just like there are players that are looking to get drafted into the NFL and people are giving them the chance to work out for teams, there's somebody probably in a high school somewhere that will also add to the expansion of what women have done in the universe. But I want to just pick up some names, just an opinion. Jemele Hill, Big C, and why she's key, she recently signed a deal to host a podcast network to elevate African-American women. There are few people in the sports media who have a greater influence than Hill. Just my opinion. It's likely that she won't just have an impact on the coming decade in sports. Her voice will also help shape it. And this woman who's so brilliant, she was actually ostracized by her own network at the time for being able to tell the truth. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you know, people did not want the honesty coming from a black woman. And Jemele Hill has been a trailblazer ever since she's gotten into the broadcast and journalism industry, Charlton. You know, she's a native Detroitan, and she has that Midwestern mentality. And she is one of those that will not kowtow to anybody.
Yeah.
She is going to be a great inspiration for all women in the next decade.
Yeah, for all women in the next decade. And I really wish her nothing but the best. She really is a shining light, and I really appreciate what she's done. Even with resistance, she didn't just, fold her tent and walk away. She decided to keep expanding and rising and shining. And there's another woman that I think is going to do great things, already has done great things. Michelle Roberts, Big C. Why is she the key? I think Roberts played a significant role in not just the NBA successfully playing during the pandemic and in a secure bubble, Big C, but helping shape the protocols that kept players safe. As long as people listen, she also facilitated financial negotiations and aided the league's effort in social justice messaging. And ironically, there are times when people say, well, we heard that before, but these women, they rise and shine every day, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, who would have thought that all of those men, Charlton, would have a woman that represents them as the director of the Players Association, and that's Michelle Roberts in the NBA. She has the same role that Demarius Smith has in the NFL. But when you look at the advancement of the NBA, how it has become a benchmark as far as negotiating and players' rights, Michelle Roberts has been that mother figure and that dominant figure in the NBA, Charlton, representing all those young men.
Yep. And as long as women can keep pushing through, it doesn't mean it's going to be easy. There will always be some resistance, but you keep rising and shining. You don't fold your tent just because some people think, oh, that's not your place in the world. It's all fair level war. I just hope that she keeps rising and shining, Big C. There's another woman, and again, there's so many. The list would wrap all around the world. In fact, it would wrap all around the universe. But Sarah Thomas, Big C, and why she's a key? Thomas' journey to Super Bowl 55 serves as an example, Big C, of how impactful and inclusive the officiating crews can and should be, Big C. She paved the way for women to see themselves as an NFL game official and not just a cheerleader. And Big C, that's no small feat in the world of men, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it's a challenging profession for anybody. And Michelle Thomas has broken that glass ceiling in the NFL. And by her accomplishments, Charlton, now we have an African-American female that will be joining the NFL officiating crew in this upcoming season. So the Trailblazers always open the door. Just as you talk about celebrating Jackie Robinson Day, in baseball, these women have become the same type of trailblazers that he has been.
Yes, life is a lot easier when a woman says yes, if that makes sense to you. We need to have yes days so more women can say yes and be told the word yes, Big C, if that makes sense to you. Also, I want to add to that list Cynthia Marshall, and why she's key. As the first African-American woman to lead an NBA team, Marshall has guided the Mavericks to become the standard, in this my opinion, for diverse and inclusive practices, Big C, in the league just several weeks ago. And just even several weeks after joining the team, she implemented a 100-day plan to create a non-hostile work environment. It's so important. When named CEO, none of the existing players or the employees or the executive leadership on the team were able to look at a woman in that position, Big C, and because none were women or people of color. And today that leadership team is 50% women and 47% women of color. And Cynthia Marshall, she's rising and shining every day, and I hope she continues to, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you got to give precedence to Mark Cuban to bring in an African-American woman, Charlton, to take control of the organization. This organization had been under much scrutiny and been maligned for actions that they had done that were irregular in society, Charlton. And now that you're bringing a black woman with a clean slate to clean up the problems that the Mavericks have had, and now they can move forward with prominence.
Yeah, I just appreciate, again, we got to find a way to get more women to say yes. And we got to find a way to get more men to say yes to women. I mean, the word yes, it precedes everything possible that happens in life. The word yes is so important. But oftentimes, when people get told no, it can break their spirit. The word yes oftentimes will come after a lot of no's, Big C. So don't get disgruntled. Don't be dismayed when someone tells you no. There's a yes right around the corner. Kim Ng, Big C. Why she's a king? She possesses one of the greatest resumes of any first-time general manager in league history. She's important not solely because she proved to be a talented baseball executive, but she also served as something almost as important, in my opinion, a role model. For girls and women, Big C, she led Major League Baseball's incentives to improve the quality of play and rate the participation for amateur baseball around the world, while also supervising player initiatives for women and girls, Big C, and serving on the league's diversity pipeline advisory committee. Oftentimes, women who sought these positions, they were told no. And so they would ask again, and they were told no, now's not the time. And so they would ask again, and oftentimes they were told no again. But she's in that position because people are starting to say yes, Big C, and I hope they keep saying yes to women, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, when you think about Kim's rise, Charlton, in Major League Baseball, become the general manager of an organization, what a prominent role to put a woman in, especially a woman of Asian descent, Charlton, as we think about how Asians have been so maligned under the past presidency, Charlton, and vitriol that they had to overcome. And now for her to be in that leadership role and inclusion, the culture can really hold their head high in saying we are achieving. Yeah,
everybody needs to hear the word yes. In fact, that should be a holiday when we say yes to everything, as long as it's good. You don't want to say yes if it's not good. But when you think about everything that's ever happened in somebody's life, that's good. Somebody said yes. The word yes is so powerful, Y-E-S. Sometimes you got to say it 3 times, Big C. Lisa Francis Kennedy, why she's key? Kennedy's work in the motorsport industry has landed her on Forbes, Big C, most powerful woman in sports 2 times. Think about this. In 2014, received a Woman Making History Award from the National Women's History Museum. Kennedy's influence and power reached beyond NASCAR, Big C. She established herself as one of the most powerful people across all the world of sports. Oftentimes she heard the word no. No, it's not your time. No, we're not ready yet. We got to keep trying. We need you to take more time. But by hearing the word yes, now she's been able to ascend, and I hope that she continues to rise and shine, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, when you think about being the most powerful woman in the sports world, Charlton, what an outstanding feat to be recognized as that wherever you go, you move the chain, Charlton, and she has done that. You think about the world of NASCAR and now in open wheel racing around the world, Charlton. This is a woman that You know, when people used to think about people like, you know, Roger Penske,
Yeah.
Richard Petty,
Yep.
you know,
AJ
Dale
Foyt.
Earnhardt.
Yeah.
She has risen above all of those.
Yeah. It's a tough world. And if you're not tough, mentally tough, then people will push you over. They'll tell you no. And sometimes you get told the word no because they want to see how bad do you really want it. Almost everybody in life, they didn't start out being successful. They had to toil and work hard for it and keep grinding and keep climbing that mountain. And I think every woman understands. And from what I understand, even childbirth is difficult. You can't just push one time and have a baby, Big C. You got to keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And in life, you got to do the same thing. I wish her nothing but the best as she keeps rising and shining. The great Leah Francis Kennedy, Big C. Another great woman, Becky Hammon, Big C. And why is she key? It seems only a matter of time before Hammon becomes a head coach in the NBA. And there's something that could easily happen this coming decade as we see more and more women not being shy, not being quiet, not being willing to be ancillary to some man, and they hear the word no, and they may hear it ad nauseum, Big C, but eventually when they don't quit and they keep rising and shining, they hear the word yes, Big C. Your thoughts?
You know, I think that it should occur sometime soon, Charlton. When we think about the fundamentals of women's college basketball and women in the WNBA and how they play the game, I think that's been lost from the NBA. And Becky Hammon has done a tremendous job as an assistant coach with the San Antonio Spurs.
Yeah.
I think the NBA is ready for somebody to bring back fundamentals. And that's what a woman coach would do, Charlton, bring back the fundamentals. And the guys have showed that they will listen.
Yeah, they will listen. Most men listen to their moms growing up. So why would some men think, can they really lead men? Every man on the planet came out of the womb of a woman, and he had to listen at some point in time. It should not be any more difficult for women in the workforce than it has been for men that come from women, Big C. The great Becky Hammon, Big C, I wish her nothing but the best. She will get that head coaching job very soon. Also, another phenomenal woman, and she's a young woman, the great Naomi Osaka, Big C. And why she's key from bearing the names of victims of racial profiling or police violence on her mask during the U.S. Open in 2020. Even in the Australian Open, she won. And I believe the one of the announcers at the ceremony where they were giving her the trophy looked to the person that lost and said, "Don't worry, you'll be here next year." I thought that was a slap in the face, but she's heard that before. But all she does is keep winning, Big C, using her social media platform as a vehicle for advocacy for communities of color. And all women can be motivated by her, Big C. Osaka's influence on the younger generations of athletes and others is going to grow from years to come. So even when she wins a tournament and the announcer looks to the person that lost and says, "Don't worry, you'll be here next year," as opposed to Naomi Osaka is going to repeat, you just got to keep going forward and rising and shining, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, as you look at the younger athletes in America, Charlton, they have a torch to bear.
Yep.
They have social media platforms, and they understand the movement of young people. And they have to use their clout as athletes to influence those people, to show them that they're not alone, that they can have national spokespersons that will speak their language, Charlton. And that's what Naomi has done.
Yeah, she's done it. And she was motivated by the great Serena Williams, watching her do her thing with her serves. He was on probably in the crib watching television when Serena Williams was doing her thing, and then to get to the point where she can surpass the great Serena Williams, Big C. Nothing but respect for women motivating other women. There's enough room at the top of the mountain for everybody to succeed. Simone Manuel, Big C, why is she key? At 24 years of age, she's positioned to dominate the upcoming Tokyo Olympics, Big C. I hope that we have the Olympics this year, but she's in a great position to dominate it and sees at the moment as a chance to use her platform to advocate for diversity in the predominantly white sport of swimming, Big C. And when she's in the press conference, and she was asked one time that she's a champion of diversity and inclusion and equality, and she said, "Well, why is that important? I genuinely believe that every other swimmer that is next to me, whether they're black, white, or Asian, they need to be asked that same question, Big C." I mean, it's all about diversity and inclusion, but don't just people of color to ask about diversity and inclusion. And I hope that she keeps rising and shining, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, that's what white society has always done. Ask the black victims, how do you solve a problem? The ones creating the problem. As we think about black athletes in the aquatic world, Charlton, in the past Olympics that we had blacks win gold medals in the water for the first time representing America.
Yeah.
It shows all that they want is an opportunity.
That's it.
The inclusion part, Charlton, is part of that opportunity. So all you have to do is ask the people who have ostracized them and kept them from participating about equality and inclusion.
Yeah, it's about asking. You got to ask, and you ask, and you keep asking, and you keep asking until you get that yes, if that makes sense to you, if you want it bad enough. Another woman on the list, Christina Harps, that Big C. And why is she key? In addition to her work in the NFL, which is a very tough business to crack, especially for women, she's aware that women need mentors like her. And she mentioned that she has a great support system, but when it came to her career, she never really had people that were willing to reach back and help her. And she just really wants to be a mentor and gather a bunch of other women in the industry to be the mentors that she wished she had, Big C. At the end of the day, all life comes from women, Big C. If you're going to pass the baton, if you're going to pass the torch, if you're going to empower the next generation, you have to be intentional with that position that you have been given. And just like anybody that's trying to achieve anything, oftentimes the word you're going to hear more than anything else is no. In fact, you're going to hear blankety blank no. But you don't let that stop you. All you're looking for is a yes and have your chance to rise and shine, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, as we've consistently looked at these women who have gained tremendous opportunity to participate in something that they love and cherish, and to take influential roles. I mean, and this is what everybody wants to be able to do. You know, you go back to Dr. Martin Luther King, Charlton, this day, some 60 years, 50 plus years ago, when he was penned his letter from the Birmingham jail. And you know, in this letter, Charlton, he said, you know, Negroes in America have constantly heard, now is not the time. And now is not, and hearing this term, now is not the time, mean that it won't happen.
Yeah.
And that was the conclusion that many Negroes had in the 50s, Charlton, and 60s in America, because they've always heard, now is not the time to have inclusion. And today we see women breaking that glass ceiling.
Yeah, breaking that glass ceiling and not even getting cut because they're breaking it with their brain and not their brawn, if that makes sense to you. I wish that all young girls can just don't worry about the word no. Most people are going to tell you no. Whenever you walk into a department store, people say, hi, may I help you? We're just by habit, we say, no, thank you, I'm fine. And then maybe about a minute or two later, that salesperson says, hi, may I help you? Oh, no, I'm fine. And then maybe the third time, that person says, are you still doing okay? You might say, yes, I need some help now. It's the same thing in anything else in life. And women, especially young women of color, Big C, they got to know, you just got to keep asking. You keep asking until you get what you want. And it's all about women, no matter what color they are. There's a great commercial that I've seen on television, Big C. And it's with Megan Rapone. And she's in a commercial with Usain Bolt. And she's Caucasian, he's African American, he's African, he's black, and she's white. And they're doing a commercial, and it's about competition and being competitive. But at the same time, there was a time that you would not see that woman in the commercial or that man in the commercial because people oftentimes told them no. You got to fight through the word no. Megan Rapone, Big C, why she is key in my opinion. She's never shied away from speaking out against systemic injustice and speaking up for different communities, Big C, in rights, black and white, or gay and straight, lesbian rights, Big C. As long as she has a voice, she will use it to advocate for the underrepresented communities. And this is sometimes when people say, well, I really don't want to get involved. Well, I got mine, you get yours. Well, now's not the time. She's never had that shut up and dribble or shut up and kick kind of mentality, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, she has been a leader from day one on the women's soccer team, Charlton, that represents the United States. She has fought for equal justice for all women that participate, Charlton, and equal pay as well. And so when here's somebody who wants to stand out for the masses, and this is the common thing that you've represented in all of the women that you've talked about, Charlton, how great and dominant they've been, not to just sit there and accept the status quo that has been presented to them by men. Instead, moving forward, showing that these men, that they were equal and even better in many situations than what they ever could be. And so the world just needs to take a step back and see the promise that all women have in society in what they can accomplish.
Yeah, it's just a matter of yes. Everybody needs to be told the word yes. If you don't have that word told to you enough in life, then sometimes people do give up. Not everybody has that same type of moxie. Some people, they're just not built to take a lot of rejection. But you got to push through it no matter what it is, man or woman. It's all fair and love and war. We're going to take what's called the Big C pause. And when we come back, I'm going to talk more about one more woman that I just want to pay homage to on the great Jackie Robinson today, that everybody can rise and shine. In the words of the great Arnold Schwarzenegger, we'll be back. All right, we're back from the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. You can follow on Spotify, so many applications. I really want to say thank you to Xfinity, Comcast TV, and Comcast Spotlight for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just like God said, let there be light. Open your cell phones and say play Big C Sports Podcast. You will see our apps come up anywhere in the world. Anywhere in the world. You just got to say Big C Sports Podcast, and I really do appreciate the growth we're having with Big C Sports. I want to touch on one more woman, that one shining moment, Big C, that women can do anything. I mean, they can have a baby, men can't. And I don't want to compete for that role, Big C. Some things you just bow your head and say, you got more power than me. It's all fair, love, and war. The Atlanta Dream. Why are they key? The Dream organization and its players, they serve as an example to teams across this country, Big C, on how to effectively mobilize and organize efforts for lasting change, whether it's championing the Black Lives Matter movement, Big C, or empowering women of color, or even women in different communities, whether it's lesbian, straight, gay, no matter what it is, Big C. The Dream show no signs of slowing down. Their support for progressive social change. And oftentimes, these are women who would not even have a platform, but even 2 decades ago, Big C. And I hope they keep rising and shining, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I take the legacy of the city that they play in Atlanta, Charleston, and there's been so many move forward black people that have been in that city. When we think about Maynard Jackson, Dr. King, Ralph Abernathy.
Yeah.
We think about the many people who have laid the foundation for the everyday black of today in America. And many of those came out of Atlanta. And we think about the Atlanta Dream, this team that was so prescient enough to get rid of the bigotry of an owner that was part of that organization.
Yeah.
And former player become one of the owners of the team, Charlton. Set an example for the community through the young lady and the young men of that city.
Yeah, it's amazing. Everybody talks about how much they love Dr. King, but as we've mentioned in many of our podcasts, Big C, at a time he was a hated man in America, all because he wanted liberty and justice for all, and people hated him. They said, "Oh, he's a treasonous. He's anti-American. He's telling people to love and not hate, and he's talking about economic equality as opposed to everybody staying segregated and being kept out of the flow of power." So a lot of people pay homage to King, and that's part of the Atlanta Dream, that is their mascot name, Big C, and I really appreciate what they've done down there in the beautiful city of Atlanta. And speaking of, it is Jackie Robinson Day for baseball, and a lot of people are trying to find ways to honor what Jackie Robinson was all about, Big C, but I still think when he helped open the bank in Harlem, that was as much an accomplishment as breaking that baseball color barrier, because he was told no when it came to integrating baseball. A lot of black men were told no, and they kept knocking on that door because it was more money, not because they didn't want to have their own league. And obviously the door came open, and more people have that opening. But going back to his banking, we talked about Kevin Durant with his currency, Big C, the cryptocurrency that every black American should at least look into, as much as we look at who won the game and watching SportsCenter. SportsCenter is not going to teach us anything about economically empowering ourselves, Big C. And nothing wrong with it if that's all you care about. But NBA, 3-time NBA champion, the great Dwyane Wade has purchased an ownership stake in the Utah Jazz, Big C, joining majority owner and team governor Ryan Smith, with plans to take an active role in the franchise in that region of the country, Big C. That's absolutely amazing, in my opinion. I believe that Dwyane Wade has opened up so many more doors, but he's not the first one, and he won't be the last. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, no, he's not the first one, Charlton, but, you know, to see a player not that far removed from the game become active in ownership, that's an incentivization, Charlton, of what we need in America. And for him to go get a stake in the best team in the NBA right now, Charlton, it means that he's moving forward with everything.
Yeah.
And to take an active role, he knows basketball in and out. He was offered an opportunity to be part of the majority ownership of the Miami Heat right after he retired, but he said the time wasn't ready for, he wasn't ready for it at that time.
Yeah.
And he waited till the time was right, and now he's going to be a general partner of the Utah Jazz.
Yeah, a general partner of the Utah Jazz. I remember when they had that statement, I believe it was at the ESPYs or some show, and Dwyane Wade was there with LeBron James, I believe Carmelo Anthony, and I forget some of the other players that were there, and they were talking about the Black Lives Matter, and they just wanted people to not just be a jock, not just be an athlete. And I know people might say, in fact, it don't matter what people say. I hear on a conservative talk show when they were doing an update on a sports program on a conservative talk show, they had a segment where they brought in sports. They went from talking about NASDAQ and the S&P 500 to the sports update on a financial show. Big C, they were playing the hip-hop music just like Big C does. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, you have to understand sports is finance. And so they intertwine with each other. And as people start to look at the financial power that these athletes possess, I've always believed that the players should just tell the leagues to screw themselves and start their own.
Yeah.
They don't have to deal with the bylaws of these organizations. They don't have to work under the ownership and oppression of these white owners across the league, Charlton.
Yeah.
They are the ones with the money. They own a percentage, of, at least 50% of every league that they play in.
Yeah.
So they can take that money and leverage it through banks in America, through financial institutions, through capital ventures, Charlton, and become their own entity and control every narrative.
Yep, every single one. The Black Wall Street, Big C. We know there were mobsters that were deputized by law enforcement to go out and destroy buildings. And they were so prosperous in the Black Wall Street, they had several cities, but the one that's most prominent was in Tulsa, Oklahoma, but they had them in New York and also in California, all over the country, and people tore it down. But this thing that you're talking about, I'm so proud of what we have in this country where you're going to be told no. You're going to be told no whether you're a man or woman. Everybody, even God says no to a lot of prayers for people who believe in God, Big C. It's not always yes the first time. You got to keep rising and shining. Everything you have in life at one time is nothing but a thought. And think about what the great Dwyane Wade has just done. Big C, an 8-time NBA player with the Miami Heat, is the latest of several Hall of Fame level players with NBA ownership stakes, including Grant Hill, the Atlanta Hawks, Big C. The great Grant Hill, I know he was doing his thing in college for the Duke Blue Devils, and now he has a chance to be part of a great organization without the paper bags, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, he's been part of the Atlanta Hawks organization for several years, Charlton. He just took over the U.S. Basketball Association Olympic team, Charlton. So, I mean, when you think about Grant Hill, I mean, his dad did a marvelous job in raising him, and he was a former NFL player with the Cowboys and the Washington football team, Charlton. Calvin Hill, a Yale graduate, so his son didn't fall too far from the tree.
Yeah, his son did not fall too far from the tree. In fact, he planted his own tree. Big C, if that makes sense to you. It's all fair, love, and war. Also, the great Shaquille O'Neal. He has come from a military background. Big C, his family members played down there at LSU. So Shaq still has a lot of paper bags hanging around his house someplace in some basement. It's like, Shaq, why you have so many houses? I got to find a place to put all these paper bags, Big C. It's all fair, love, and war going to LSU. He had a trail of paper bags. But being part owner of the Sacramento Kings and Big C, it's amazing that so many men, they're doing something that's great right now, but the great Jackie Robinson owned the bank, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, Kevin Durant can make his own bank, and Shaq right now makes more money in the private sector than he ever made per year in the NBA, Charlton. So, I mean, the opportunity for these players, and when you look at Shaq, as far as what he's vested in, a bank is one of the things that he's vested in.
Yeah, he's done so much, not just on the basketball court, but he's shown more business acumen outside of the court. Ask the general, okay? Don't wait in line to go on the general and save some time. It's off there in left war. I really appreciate the great Shaquille O'Neal doing his thing. Also, maybe the Mount Rushmore of NBA basketball in our time, Big C. I always would say it's Kareem. That's just my opinion. But you think about the Charlotte Hornets and majority owner, the great Michael Jordan. Think about Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan did his thing when he was at North Carolina, and he had that winning shot when they beat the Georgetown Hoyas, and Patrick Ewing was sweating all over him, all over the court, and Michael found a dry spot and was able to hit a basket from the corner. But now he's hitting baskets as an owner of an NBA team, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, he was the trailblazer. He was the one that got in the door first, Charlton.
Yeah.
A tremendous opportunity for Mike Jordan. I mean, people say, well, why did he do this in Chicago? Well, he grew up in Carolina, Charlton. He went back home and where his foundation was from.
Yeah, and he's done so much in the world. You know, a lot of the kids around the AAU scene, and people can criticize Mike for whatever, but no one can tell another man what to do with his money. And sometimes people who are smart, where Michael Jordan comes from, they're told don't wear everything you have on your sleeves. You think about how much Michael Jordan's been successful, Big C. A lot of grown men, they don't go brag about where they put their money. They don't go brag about how much money they have and what they invest in. They don't go tell somebody whenever they do something good for somebody. He's making a great feat for Kobe Bryant that the family asked him to do, so that's great. But more important than that, when you think about what Michael Jordan's done, Big C, as an ambassador for the Olympics, for the USA basketball team, what he did at North Carolina, and what he's doing now as majority owner of the Charlotte basketball NBA franchise, Big C, everybody can say what they want to say. But no one can ever say that this man hasn't done his thing. He even ventured out to do his own world of business without telling everybody about it. Congratulations to the great Michael Jordan. Also, one guy that you believe in magic. Do you believe in magic? You know, the great miracles. Do you believe in miracles from the USA and Russia hockey game? But do you believe in magic? The great Magic Johnson, Big C, Irvin Magic Johnson. You know, he led Michigan State to a NCAA college basketball championship over the great Larry Bird back in the day. Went on to help the Lakers win 5 NBA championships, Big C. And they should have had 7, but they were cheated out of 2 for sure that I know of, Big C. It's all fair level war. But the great Magic Johnson previously had 4% stake in the Los Angeles Lakers, as well as with the Los Angeles Dodgers, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you know, when you sign the contract, you got to make sure you read the small print. That's what he did when he was with the Lakers and Dr. Buss Charlton, and his contract entitled him to a small percentage of the team. But, you know, with some other friends, he went out and bought in a share of the Los Angeles Dodgers, Charlton.
Yeah.
Magic Johnson is one of the more well-respected businessmen in the entire Los Angeles state.
Yeah, he's brilliant, Big C. And the guy, I'll never forget, when he had a talk show. He's also been a coach on the floor for the Lakers. He's been able to do everything he can set his mind to: businesses, movie theaters, Starbucks, coffee shops, and still a young man and still going forward. And I really appreciate a lot of what these men have done. But going back to the great Dwyane Wade, Big C, he's only 39. You know, he's not 79 years old, Big C. The great Dwyane Wade is only 39. He met Smith actually on the San Clemente golf course out in California shortly after his retirement from playing in 2019. And they became fast friends. Wade wanted to understand about his tech empire, including his company, Qualtrics, I believe it's called, and calls him a mentor. Now, Smith is only 42 years old, and he raised the idea of Wade joining the ownership group upon completing a $1.66 billion purchase of the Utah Jazz in October. And as I've always said to many people, you have not because you ask not. I really believe in the mentorship that a lot of people have given, and I really hope that more businesses will give that mentorship to people of color and women, no matter what color they are, because people who are already on the inside, they can also open that door a little bit wider, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you also have to have the mental acumen when you're dealing with somebody, Charlton. And when you spend that 4 to 5 hours around the golf on an exclusive club, you get a chance to rub elbows with some of the better financial people in America.
Yeah.
But it's so important to have the social skills. That's the number one thing you look at. No one cares about your athleticism when you're 40 years old.
Yeah.
It's about the social skills that you've developed.
Yeah.
And can you take that and translate that into the business world?
Yeah, can you take it and move that over into the business world? You know, I also want to, you know, being around the Bay Area so much of my life growing up, Big C, there's a player that played football over in Oakland. The name is Marshawn Lynch, Big C, and obviously went to Cal Berkeley, was in the backfield with the great Aaron Rodgers, went on to Buffalo Bills, and then ended up in Seattle, and then ended up retiring from the Oakland Raiders back in the day before they ended up moving down to Las Vegas, and he decided he didn't want to go to Las Vegas with all those bright lights. But you think about everybody's left Oakland, it seems, and so many people have gentrified Oakland, and the Raiders left and went down to Las Vegas. Obviously, they went for more money, but former Oakland Raiders star, NFL star, running back Marshawn Lynch, he joins the ownership group of the Oakland Roots, Big C. It's a USL, a soccer team, and he's a defensive lineman. I mean, I think about so many defensive linemen that had a hard time tackling Marshawn Lynch, and I see what he's done in Oakland, where he would actually go around handing out turkeys, and there was another player that would help him that went to Stanford. I'm just dropping his name for me right now, but Marshawn has done so many things for the city of Oakland, and now being a part owner of the USL, the Oakland Roots. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, these are investments that players are making, Charlton, about their future. You know, everybody for years was just about what they could buy, you know, flash-wise.
Yeah.
Now players understand that they have to build a network of value.
Yeah.
And that's what these investments are starting to do.
Yeah, they're starting to put the investments in play. And I just appreciate all the men that are getting that chance and that opportunity. The great Marshawn Lynch, known as Beast Mode, is also being Beast Mode when it comes to the world of business. And hopefully this team will stay in Oakland, unlike so many others that sought the need to get out. It's all fair and love and war. I want to touch on also, as we think about the world of sports, Big C, and you think about so many great players that are doing their thing in the world of the NBA. DeAndre Ayton, that good old boy who played at the University of Arizona back in the day, Big C, and he had 26 points, 11 rebounds, and the great Devin Booker dropped 23 points, and the Phoenix Suns won their 10th straight home game by beating the Sacramento Kings by the score of 122 to 114 on Thursday night. It was a game that was back and forth for a while. The Kings tried to get a little bit close, but it's like the Suns were just playing with them. The Suns have not lost in their home arena for nearly a month now, Big C. Your thoughts?
I mean, they're blazing hot in the desert. What more can you say about them? And you got the Sacramento Kings perpetrating an NBA team.
Yeah, they're perpetrating a team. They have a brand new Golden West Center, and it just seems like something's going on. I think maybe Walton wanted to get that job at Arizona, but someone beat him through the punch, and maybe he's going to have to find greener pastures. Is all fair and love and war. But when I think about what the great Ayton did, Big C, he was 10 of 11 from the field, made all 6 of his free throws, and Paul finished with just 13 points and 11 assists, and Paul has 40 assists and only 1 turnover in the last 4 games, Big C. Your thoughts?
You know, that's almost impossible when you think about statistics like that, Jonathan. Only 1 turnover in 4 games, and you're the point guard, you're the major handle on your basketball team. Well, he may not be looked at as far as an MVP of the NBA.
Yeah.
But he's the MVP of those Phoenix Suns, Charlton.
Yeah, he's an MVP. He's the MVP wherever he goes, Big C. He does all the State Farm commercials. I even think about State Farm every time I see him on TV. That's how good they've branded him with the State Farm commercials. But it's all fair and love and war. I wish him nothing but the best. There's another great show down in Los Angeles, but it's on, you know, when they do the pause, the Lakers are doing the Big C pause. All the great players seem to be on pause for the most part. NBA last night in Los Angeles, Staples Center, I think they allowed about 1,900 fans in there. But then Jaylen Brown had to screw it all up, Big C. He dropped 40 points in the final minute. Think about this. This good old boy, right down to the end, was taking control of that game, unstoppable. The Boston Celtics blew most of a 27-point lead in the fourth quarter before holding on for that 5th straight victory. It was a 121 to 113 win over the Los Angeles Lakers on Thursday night after just knocking off Portland up in the Rose Garden. Big C, your thoughts?
You know, they rolled into L.A., Charleston, and they had a little Boston clam chowder. I mean, they smashed the Lakers. I mean, they went into the deep end of that pool and drug everything out.
Yeah, they drained the lake, Big Z. They were trying to drain the lake in Los Angeles, but hopefully they'll start getting back into the ocean, and when the good players get back in town. I know Anthony Davis is getting a little bit of clearance. And what's it about coming to the Staples Center and leaving all those leprechauns hanging around the store? There were 1,900 people, but I heard about 1,500 leprechauns. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you know, everybody knows that L.A. is the land that eats these days, so,
yeah.
So you go out there to get healthy in your schedule.
Yeah, they got to get it right now because there's a couple of sheriffs coming back to town pretty soon. But Brown made 13 of his first 14 shots and hit three-pointers while falling just 2 points shy of a career high for the Celtics. They've won 8 of 11 games now, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you know, everybody was talking about the coach might not be the guy that they need, Brad Stevens.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, this team is playing like Brad has told them that they could. You know, winning 8 of 11 games, Charleston, they're on a roll.
Yeah, they are actually on a roll, and I'm sure they're going to keep on that roll. Peyton Richardson, actually his name is Peyton Pritchard, and Marcus Smart, who had a solid game, 15 points apiece for the Celtics, who never trailed despite committing. They had 21 turnovers, so they had a sloppy performance. But the Lakers seemed like they were just not as inspired as we're expecting to see them over the last couple of years. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I guess that's vice versa. We saw a couple of days ago the Lakers had 22 turnovers and got smashed. The Celtics gave up 21 turnovers and laughed at the Lakers.
And got a win. And this same Laker team blew out Brooklyn by 25 points. Same lineup, same team. So sometimes you just get it and sometimes you don't get it. But it's hard to explain how they can blow out the Brooklyn Nets when a lot of people have already wanted to crown them as the best team in the league, and then they drop games and they should win. It's all fair and love and war. Also, a little bit of sad news well, it won't be too sad. I think it's going to be okay. Donovan Mitchell, the great Donovan Mitchell, scored 22 points before leaving the game with a sprained ankle in the third quarter. In the NBA leading Utah Jazz, they beat the Pacers 119-111 on Friday night. I know a lot of people had to take a big pause when he went down, but you could see that he twisted his ankle. It's not as if he hurt a knee like Jamal Murray did for Denver, Big C, but he's going to be okay, Big C. Your thoughts?
I mean, that's what the NBA players go through all the time, Charleston. Whether you notice it or not, they're constantly twisting those ankles.
Yep.
And this is one of those things he's had the MRI and it's come back negative.
Yeah, it's come back negative. Thank goodness for that. Also, Bogdan Bogdanovic, Big C, dropped 24 points. Rudy Gobert added 13 points. And a Wilt Chamberlain, like 23 rebounds and 4 blocks for the Jazz. Jordan Clarkson chipped in 18 points off the bench. And then Mike Conley dropped in 10 points and 10 assists. Big C, how do you get 23 rebounds in one game, Big C? Your thoughts?
You know, that's the reason why he's the highest paid center in the NBA, Charleston, is his defensive acumen. You know, hanging around the rim. This is what's known as a rim protector.
Yeah.
And this is the reason why they're the best team in the NBA.
Yeah.
They have that defensive presence.
Yeah, they really are a great team in the NBA, but we're going to see how great they are if they're going to be missing Donovan Mitchell. If you're the Phoenix Suns, here's a perfect opportunity for the Phoenix Suns to turn up the heat on the Jazz, and it's all fair and love and war, but you don't want to rush back Donovan Mitchell too soon. But without Donovan Mitchell, Big C, it's not like you can just pull someone off the bench and replace his leadership, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, they were the number one team in the league prior to acquiring Donovan Mitchell via trade, Charleston, at the midway point at the trade deadline. So this is a team that knew how to play without him before he left the lineup.
Well, we'll see what happens. It's all fair and love and war. Tonight's NBA schedule: Oklahoma City at Detroit, L.A. Clippers at Philadelphia. What a game that is, Big C. New Orleans at Washington. Charlotte is at Brooklyn. Orlando's at Toronto. Memphis is at Chicago. Denver's at Houston. Miami's at Minnesota. Portland's at San Antonio. And you have the New York Knickerbockers. They are down in Texas, where the great Luka Doncic can fall forward and hit a three. Big C, your thoughts?
You know, he's hit so many of those shots in his young career, Charleston. Nothing amazes you when that happens.
Nothing amazing when that happens. I want to take you to the game of the day of the NBA universe, my opinion. LA Clippers, Los Angeles Clippers at the Philadelphia 76ers. The great Doc Rivers get to see his old team in town, Big Z. And I just told everybody from LA, do whatever you do, don't fall for a bite of the chili of that Philly cheesesteak. They should have the Big C burger. It's a tasty burger, Big C, but don't eat the Philly cheeseburger, and maybe they'll have a chance on the East Coast. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, when you think about Doc Rivers, Charlton, he knows his team very well. So I don't think the Clippers are going to stand a chance tonight against the 76ers. Doc gets the win.
The doc, just what the doctor ordered. Don't eat the Philly cheesesteak. It's all fair and level war. Eat the Big C burger, and hopefully they'll have a good chance back on the East, because I still like the way Joel Embiid's playing. Can't wait to see how the Claw and Joel Embiid get together and do their thing on the East Coast. Major League Baseball, Big C. The Blue Jays' Vladimir Guerrero Jr. continues a torrid start with the longest homer of the Major League Baseball career versus the Royals. It was 456 feet, Big C, versus the Royals' Cal Zimmer. That means the ball is still traveling, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you know, you talk about a young man not living in the shadow of his dad. His dad, one of the greatest home run hitters in baseball, Charlton, when he played with the Montreal Expos
That's
and
right.
the California Angels. And Vlad Jr. has done the same thing. Came into the major leagues last year with the Toronto Blue Jays, and you can see he was a chip off the old block, Charlton. He's lost some weight this year that has made him a little quicker. But his prowess around the home plate, Charlton, has just been phenomenal.
Yeah, the pitch. Hit deep. Right field. Back to the wall. Home run. 456 feet. And that's pretty far, Big C. Most guys could hit it that far. If they hit it twice, it's all fair and level war. Going 3 for 5 with a double and a home run. It gave Thursday the Rays Vladimir Jr. season batting average to 413, Big C. When you think about that, through 13 games, that's a cool 1.200 ops. When you think about an OPS, and he's 15 for 31 in his past 8 games, and it's nearly as many walks as 9, and strikeouts 10 in the year, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you know, you think about that 15 for 31, Charlton, hitting. I mean, that's batting 500 in his last 10 games is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
We talked about it's too early in the season, you know, to rave about baseball and what the total outcome will be of statistics, Charlton.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he's on a torrid pace, and you have to pay attention to it.
Yeah, got to pay attention to it. They're still cheering him. They're still cheering how dominant his performance was. I love this time of year, Major League Baseball. It's just a little hot in California, but it's been snowing. They had to postpone a couple of games today in the Baseball Friday schedule. Jackie Robinson Day for April the 16th in this baseball universe. You have Atlanta at Chicago, the Cubs, Big C. Arizona Diamondbacks at Washington. St. Louis is at Philadelphia. Tampa Bay at the New York Yankees. And you have Cleveland at Cincinnati, San Francisco at Florida Marlins. Baltimore Orioles at Texas Rangers. Pittsburgh at Milwaukee. Minnesota Twins at the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, Big C. Detroit at the Oakland A's. LA Dodgers at San Diego. Houston is at Seattle. The White Sox are at Boston. That game's postponed. Toronto at Kansas City's postponed. New York Mets at Colorado postponed. How's it 80 degrees in California and it's postponed due to weather on the East Coast, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, you had snow in Colorado today, Charlton, which postponed the Rockies game at home, so it's going to cool down their opponent. But this is what you deal with in April and the spring, Charlton. This inclement weather from time to time.
Yeah, that inclement weather from time to time. I know baseball is swinging the bat. Everybody is getting ready for that. I wanna close out with another story on today as we pay homage to women on Jackie Robinson Day. But think about this, Big C. When you get to the NFL, and they don't postpone games because of snow in the NFL, because they say football players are tougher than baseball players, even though they're not smarter because they don't make as much money in the contract. But there's more teams that reportedly opting out of the voluntary offseason because they want their health concerns addressed, Big C, and they want to make sure that they put their health over a team getting together. A couple more teams, the Steelers, the Falcons, Chargers, and Jets also became the latest from the NFL to say that they're not going to report to team facilities next week for the voluntary offseason workouts, Big C. You agree with the players or not, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, I agree with the players. Anything you can do to stay healthy, I would agree with any individual on that, Charlton. This is the proper move by the Players Association standing up against the league.
Yeah, they're standing up. They're trying to exercise their rights, and you have not because you ask not. They can tell you to play 24 hours a day, 7 days a week if they make the money for it, but sometimes people are going to back out because it's not fair it's to their health, if that makes sense to you. You know, the NFL, you know, we know people gamble. The Supreme Court said everybody can gamble, Big C. But when the NFL is doing some shenanigans with Caesars, when you think about it, and we hear about maybe a player that had a pass interference, or was that an interception or not an interception? Was that a fumble? Was it not a fumble? There's so many shenanigans. And sometimes people say, oh, that game down in New Orleans where the Rams had a definitely pass interference against New Orleans, but the officials didn't see it, even though it was picked up 7 times on the videotape, Big C. What do you think of the NFL having these great affiliation with these betting casinos? We know they already do, but should they make it more public, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, no, the NFL last year, Charlton, made it public that they were partnership with Caesars organization. And so when you're partly financing the league, Charlton, this is the move of all sports, collegiate and professional, to have casino partnerships. Yeah. And so it's all about the money. I don't know if the one official on the one play will determine the total outcome of the game. Yeah. It's a multitude of plays that occurs throughout the game. But these bad calls were made even before the NFL's partnership with gaming.
Yeah, very true. I think Tom Brady, when he was playing for New England, they were in Kansas City in the AFC Championship game, and was given the benefit of the doubt, saying they hit him in the helmet, but the videotape said it hit him on the shoulder pad. I guess you can't distinguish a helmet from a shoulder pad. It's all fair level war, and the Patriots went on and won that game. But everybody knows sports and betting, they go together like sunshine and rain, if that makes sense to you. Big C, so much happening in the sports universe. I wish everybody nothing but the best. Everybody stay healthy, and please rise and shine no matter what you do. Big C, back in the day, there's a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, rumble, young man, rumble, with all you've got to use. How can you lose, Big C? What are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, everybody's always looking for something exciting in the sports universe, and we can't always be distracted by that. We had a horrific scene in Indianapolis last night. Charlton just got out of the Final Four in college basketball in that great city, and the FedEx office was attacked by a former worker, and 8 Americans lost their lives, Charlton.
Wow.
Unfortunately, we've had 57 mass shootings in the last 30 days in America. We have Republicans do not want to call for gun reform in this country. Guns are so important not to have in the hands of Americans. We also witnessed the shooting of a 13-year-old child, put it a child, not boy, child, in Chicago by the hands of police officers. So let everybody take a pause in that and think about the sanctity of human life. Not just a sporting event, but the sanctity of human life. Once again, I want to thank our frontline healthcare workers, our nurses, doctors, and first responders. They do all they can on a daily basis to save human life.
They do all they can, and you can do all you can too. When you rise and shine every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide, where you follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, as my mama always says, is never ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. If you know any man, woman, or child going through that garbage, please pick up the phone and ask for help, because no man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.